Such as the log cabin and the ravine, and there was the tree house. There was all these organic elements that we really had to try to dive into and capture it. And although some of the stuff is front facing, looks pretty good, it was really what can we do to try to sell that story beat as much as we could. We had our incredible lighting designer Harrison come through, and we leaned on him and what he could do with the lighting. We had our audio designer. We had Dickie, and then we also had Rod Perez help out with shaping all the audio stuff. So succinctly, all together, we wanted to try to have all those elements, try to really carry out this all these story beats in Grimoire.
So when creating, we have the tech side, we have the ground plan. The next thing that really brings the maze together are the characters. And if you walk through Grimoire, there's kind of two different sides. You have the real world color side, and then you have these black and white scenes. How did these characters that you created, how did you pick them? How did you come up with the interesting concept of walking into a black and white world to show that you entered the glow of the Grimoire?
Yeah, I think the characters, when we're creating our stories, we're trying to find something that the guest can relate to, and some of the things that really resonated with me that helped shape the storyline. Number one was a timeline of when this takes place, but it was also maybe the camaraderie that you see in some of those films that influenced me. The one thing that Stranger Things, the one thing that Stand By Me, that Sandlot, that the Goonies all had in common is friendship. And we wanted to create an interesting dynamics between the three human characters that you see at the beginning and then also throughout the maze. And it was almost one of those vulnerable moments where, hey, I used to be that dude, or I knew a friend like that. And in terms of the black and white world, that also allowed us to switch positions and contrast them so much that, okay, well, not only are they in black and white, but we're able to capture a certain timeline, and that's really what the Grimoire was. The Grimoire was our ability to somehow find out where this Grimoire's traveled through different times and spaces. And in terms of the visual aspect of it, our paint team and our wardrobe team did a fantastic job. I know Bill and Tim and the rest of the crew in our wardrobe really worked hand in hand in creating these different characters, and a lot of it is, I'll draw out like a concept like our Hellhounds, and then by the time it gets into the hands of the wardrobe and their crew, they add their little 2 cents into, and their creative juices really start flowing. And big shouts out to Michael, who is one of our sculptors for our mask, did a fantastic job along with the rest of the crew. And so you get sort of this nice little mixture of characters. So Jeff Tucker, he wrote this incredible and directed Invitation to Terror, which was the year before. I mean, when we talk about planting seeds years and years ahead before we reveal it to the guests, it was a nice opportunity for us to kind of sort of hint at it. And it was a show that we had at the Mystery Lodge Theater. There's a lot of folks also that are very, very aware of our Scary Farm lore, the lore around Sarah Marshall. And so, we got a chance to introduce that in Origins at the very end when you see Sarah Marshall flying around you.
The Grimoire.
The Grimoire. 8 Fingers 9, there's a little Easter egg that's in there. There's the comic books that are in there, but I think the coolest Easter egg is probably circling back to Special Ops Infected, which was my first maze that I had a chance to design at Scary Farm. And this whole idea that this takes place at Scary Farm, or that in Special Ops Infected took place in present day Calico. Ghost Town Streets takes place in Calico in 1885, post that. And then this one took us back to Calico in 87. And so you see in all these signage, the county that we use in the same signage that I did in Special Ops Infected, that's in there. And then, the last one, there's a nice little shout out to my son.
just Mesmer.
Yep.
You sure did. So tell us a little bit about how you came up with Mesmer. Like, where did this come from?
Well, I really love horror films. And one of my favorite horror films that year that I saw was Get Out. And Get Out had this great concept of hypnotism. And I just watching the audience react to this and like completely enthralled and believing that so much could happen under hypnosis, that I said, you know what? This is amazing. This is so cool that we can get people to do things under hypnosis. There's a lot of sources to this, but probably Get Out was the biggest one. But we also love at Asperin to partner our mazes to the locations that we were at. And this maze is closest to Carnival, which is sort of like a Dust Bowl 1930s maze. The very first time I pitched this, it actually was supposed to go into Wilderness Dance Hall. And it was supposed to be like a snake oil salesman.
Oh, I remember Mr. Murphy.
So it was supposed to be, in fact, I was pitching the idea that everyone get a little bit of like grape juice, and like they would drink it, and then everything would be hallucinations. This
Don't take anything he gives you.
This style of maze is very, I love this style of maze, which is the delirium nightmare style of maze, which is based off of great illusions, that you're seeing. So that was a big focus of what we did. But I really wanted to capture that 1930s Dust Bowl hypnotism show, which would cross the Midwest and be kind of horrific. So that's the kind of the spine of what Mesmer was. A really dark hypnotist show and sort of a freak show. So the whole basis of it is that we hypnotize someone so deeply that we murder them while they're still alive.
Yay, murder.
So we're going into each of their sort of versions of hell or versions of their nightmares. So we have all kinds of characters. We started this a long time ago. Because of COVID, we had to split this in two. So the basis, the first part of the maze kind of was all built, and as the ground plan shown, and we basically, because of COVID, had to delay and pick it up again.
Well, it was really interesting because we did build a lot of this, or we didn't build any of it, I should say. We drafted a lot of it behind a screen. So we were having conversations through Zoom. How did you manage to build a maze through a screen, really? Like, we weren't able to go check sites, so you kind of just had to play Tetris.
A little bit. I mean, actually, there wasn't, like, a third of it was built. And then they completely stopped it. And then we just sat there and watched it. Just because, everybody experienced COVID, so.
Yeah.
But yes, I had to kind of go back. It actually gave us a lot of time to really go into character development.
Which is
yeah. Which, one thing I did want to mention, though, that was an early on concept. One of the challenges that was given to us around this time was, let's create mazes with kind of a really cool gimmick that's kind of new to the industry. But one thing, we tried it didn't exactly work, but it was going to be really cool, was I wanted the hypnotist voice inside everyone's head.
Oh yeah, we did. That was an interesting pitch at the beginning. It's having everyone get headphones to listen as you walk through the maze, and you could just hear Professor Mesmer in your head.
Yeah. So I had these IR headphones giving out to everyone, but of course, because of COVID, everyone was very concerned. So we basically we challenged the audio team to get as close as possible to separate the voice in your head and the music and sound effects above you.
Think like a really messed up silent disco. So then after we have this ground plan, we built it to production and some of these elevations, and you really had some interesting areas in this maze. If you walk through it, there's plexiglass floors, there's swinging hallways, there's animatronics. Tell us a little bit about how you came up with this mirror and some of the things you have on the screen.
I really want to go back to what story is, and the story of how Mesmer is hypnotizing the entire audience, And I wanted to reflect that hypnotism through either
The pendulum.
a pendulum. And I said, no one I've ever seen has ever done like a pendulum motion room, where an entire room
Sways.
is swaying under you. And I just want to try to repeat all those motifs all throughout the maze to really enforce hypnotism.
If you do walk through Mesmer, which I hope you do, it's look at some of there is pendulums quite a bit. There's a lot of movement that get that sway back and forth. So then you took this all to production. Like there's a twisting hallway, there's mirrors, there's this crazy giant balloon, there's plexiglass floors. What did our production team think when you gave them all of this?
Well, I mean, it was definitely a challenge, but it was kind of beautiful, and I think they took the challenge and they ran with it. We have an incredible production team filled with painters, carpenters, proppers, that they took the challenge and they loved it. It actually, that year was the only one that was actually, I think it was the only maze that
Yeah,
we
it was
did.
the only maze we built, yeah.
So they put their heart and soul into this, and I give them all the credit because I thought it was a home run from the beginning.
Absolutely.
And I think I got such positive feedback.
Daniel, I have a question though. What is Little Miller?
That's the closest thing to my self-portrait.
There's over 1,000 people coming in and out of our central hub, and we have to keep all of them different. Whatever feel of the park. Can you touch a little bit about how you ended up making sure each character, whether they're in a maze or a street, have a different feel to them?
By all means. I mean, if we had 1,000 monsters and they were all dressed alike and you couldn't tell them apart, what would be the point of having 1,000 monsters, right?
Truth.
Exactly. So we set to make sure that every maze is identifiable as that maze, every scare zone is identifiable as that scare zone. So you can look at a character and know who they are and where they belong. Whether you're able to walk through the maze, you at least know there's a story there. You're able to put things together. We do that with color palettes. We do it with textures. In the boardwalk, all of our clowns, all of the costumes are black, white, gray, red. That is it. The color palette for their makeup, same colors. Accessories, a little bit different. We'll allow different colors on accessories, but there is a specific color palette for all of our clowns. For Ghost Town, all those colors, there's no water. All of the colors in Ghost Town need to look like they've been sitting out in the sun. They're sun faded. They were jewel rich tones at one point, but are no more. I mean, they've been out in the calico heat and the calico weather for 100 years. That's the look of that. Everything in Ghost Town, there is not a costume piece in Ghost Town that, well, there should not be.
There should not be Ghost Town people if you're in here.
It does not have Scarecloth on it. In all of our Ghost Town Scarecloth, it used to be you would find a rainbow of colors of Scarecloth out there in Ghost Town. Now it is that dirty gray cobweb color.
If there's 1,000 people who come in, how many are on your staff, Bill?
In my costume shop, if everybody shows up, I have 25 people. 7 of those 25 only issue uniforms to my park. The rest of them are working as dressers, as costume builders, stitchers. I've got a couple people who just take care of Charlie Brown and Snoopy year-round. That's their focus. They don't get to play in this world. So in working on these costumes, I'm going to say 12.
That's pretty impressive. So if you think about Scary Farm and those thousands of performers we do, there's only 12 people who are really working on it. So just think about that. Think about the numbers. So remember the word
I will share that with you. At this time of year, we also add about 35 makeup artists a night. We have about 350 people we put into makeup every night. Again, plus Scare Force on top of that as well. But we're busy folks.
We are, and we are very busy here at Not Scary Farm. So with these 2 new mazes that are returning, they have very different looks to them. If you think about Mesmer and you think about Grimm, they're completely different. Can you tell us a little bit about how the challenges you had while creating these 2 different venues? Because I know we were both in COVID. I mean, I was in the shop during 2020 helping, so tell us a little bit about the process.
Yes, Pasta came by our shop quite often and worked and sewed with us. We built Mesmer during COVID. I had a different staff at that point. I had a handful of women whose families have since said, our moms are retiring, and they didn't allow them to come back after COVID. We were, I'll be honest with you, we were their retirement job. So they came in, they worked a little bit here and there. We worked through that maze bit by bit. I don't think we worked on any character all the way through. I don't think we saw a finished character until we opened that year. Just because that was the way, that was life that year. It was trying to get stuff built bit by bit. We had one person working on collars who was here Mondays, Wednesdays. We had here somebody working on bodices. They were here Tuesday, Thursday. Our staff was broken up to avoid
Contamination, yeah.
Contamination, yeah. Those costumes we set, you'll notice everything is reds, but not just bright reds, but deep reds. We have burgundies, we have golds. There's a lot of patina, a lot of wear, a lot of age in our costumes to this maze. Nothing is fresh. Nothing is
straight off.
Nothing is bright and happy.
Yeah, no, Mesmer is not a happy maze. And then you have Grim, which,
Grim.
well, it's not nice, haha. It's gross. And then you have Grim, which we have these clean kids at one segment, so they need to look like they just came out of a comic book, essentially. Then you would go into this black and white world.
And in that black and white world, everything, we had to look and see what we were going to build and then what we were going to purchase. I think Tim Barham, who was the manager at the time, went on Amazon and found sweaters for the women, sweaters for the men that he could find, coordinating in grayscale as well as in colors to be able to do that between the two worlds. Do the same thing for the women's sweaters. The dresses, we built 2 different sets of dress, grayscale and other. When I placed my order for wigs, my wig lady basically said, "You're buying gray wigs? Most of the people have gray hair and are looking for wigs that aren't gray." I said, "Yes, I'll take them all." And so we bought so many gray wigs that year. And then we built the Hounds.
Yeah, the next one is pretty cool. So this is a John rendering. He designed these characters, and we brought them to life off the page. It's a pretty unique thing that we do, and this is an all in-house production, by the way. So this is really cool for our team. So tell us a little bit about building the Hounds.
Well, John gave us the design, and we looked at that, and we said, "This is great. How are we going to make it work?" And so what we did was I found, when we say it was in-house, I did buy, thankfully I have access to all the Ghost Town uniforms and costumes for Knott's Berry Farm. I had a new vendor that, right before we sourced this, introduced himself to me saying, "I've got a whole new line of Western shirts. I know that you do Ghost Town Live." I'll give a plug to that as well. But maybe you'll take some of these things. Actually, I think I've got you dusters as well for your scarecrows.
We do have, yep.
And then it was those dusters that I found from this new vendor that we used for all of these coats for the Hellhounds. We took them, we built collars for them, we built leg garters for them, gaiters for them. The hands, all those pieces we put over the top of that. It is a Ghost Town duster, which by the way is the same duster that we used in Bloodline for all of those folks, but that's a different story.
We love a good duster. It's a coat moment.
It is, it is. When it came to the masks, John had given us a face. We had one version of the face. We had another version of a mask that Michael, who was sculpting for me at the time, had sculpted. And we said, we'll never be able to get enough masks produced with just these. And so I asked Michael to go ahead and do this and give me the 2 faces that would be halfway in between. And he came up with 4 faces. So if you go through and you look at the Hellhounds, we've got 4 different variations on it. Here you've got Matt, who's in the middle photograph there. He's touching up some of those. Yes, we produce all of those masks in our park.
So you'll never see them anywhere else except for in the grid.
Nope. And when it's gone, well, I'll be honest with you, we'll probably find a way to repurpose these masks because they're great.
They are.
Just repainted, we'll find a different way. But yes, those are produced in our shop.
So Jeff, your team has one of the craziest parts, and as we talk about transforming the park, Bill has to costume everybody. Jeff has to transform the entire park. So if you walk through Knott's Scary Farm, there is not a single place that does not have any sort of something to it. There is Scarecloth, anything. Tell us about your team and how many there are and how do you do it?
With a hope and a prayer, no. So a lot of people don't realize that we actually do transform the park starting September 2nd We do it in approximately 2.5 weeks. We do not get to start Halloween early, like they do on the mazes, which some of them are already practically finished,
Yeah.
or they are finished. We don't get to go in and do anything until the day after Labor Day. It's a huge undertaking. I have a great team. They work very hard. We prep and we get everything lined up in the shop, and it's just in piles. And you walk into my shop, and Halloween has exploded. There's no room to walk. There's very little room to work. And once we get Halloween done, we're starting on that other holiday that's right behind you.
Yep, that's very true. So everyone, one of the signature things from Knott Scary Farm is Scarecloth. If you look, we use so much Scarecloth. Can you tell us a little bit of the history of it and how it got? How much Scarecloth do we really use?
So I don't know if anybody really remembers, or if they do remember, Scarecloth, when it was first introduced to Scary Farm, it didn't exist the first few years. It was introduced in 1975, and when it was first introduced, as you can see here in this picture, it was actually dyed. All of it was dyed various colors: red, blue, orange, green, purple. I mean, every color under the sun. And that's why it was also the same on all the costumes, because Park Decor was dyeing it. They were going over to Wardrobe. Wardrobe has a giant kettle, and you sit there and you boil it. And Bill has watched me do it when we do a small amount for other things. So, and actually, this year would be the 50th year of Scarecloth at Knott Scary.
You're exciting. Another 50th.
We found that out today, actually.
So when you're covering these entire landmarks, how much does it use? Like how many pounds or feet of?
It's sold by the pound where we buy it from. Everybody buys it from different places. Knott's tried to keep it a huge secret for many, many, many years. Employees come and go. They walk away with the secret and share it, and then everybody tries to find it. We go through approximately 300 pounds of Scarecloth a year. By the time we are done processing it, it takes about 2.5 weeks to process. It takes one person 2.5 weeks. We end up with about 16,000 pieces of Scarecloth that we use. I know a lot of it disappears during haunt. There's a lot of souvenirs leaving the park.
There sure is. I've seen it. I'm like, please don't touch that. We need that for the rest of the run. Please don't take the Scarecloth.
No, please don't take the Scarecloth. You don't want to take it with you, actually, because every single piece of Scarecloth in the park is actually flame-proofed. It has to be flame-proof to be put on the buildings.
Also, don't try to light it on fire. We're not trying to give you good ideas here, okay? Thank you. Leave it on the buildings.
But yeah, it is a process, and it's my entire team. The last week of opening, just before we open, we are out there for 10 hours a night putting up Scarecloth.
It's pretty impressive. So one of the biggest undertakings that you guys do would be our main gate statement. It is one of the most photographed places in the park. Tell us a little bit how this got, like, how did this come up with it? You take just the windmill and you turn it into this crazy thing. So let's talk about it.
Well, it actually started with us doing a small main gate statement for Boysenberry. The GM challenged me. He goes, "I like your main gate statements. They need to be bigger, though. They need to be more." I'm like, "Oh my God, how much more can we do?" And so after the 50th, I was like, "Okay, we need a new main gate statement because I can't put all the posters up there again because it just wouldn't make sense." So this is what we developed last year, and it actually grew. I would say about 15
It keeps
feet.
growing.
Yeah, it keeps growing.
So you put a lot of time and research into it. So where did you come up with this graveyard that took over Knott's?
So we reused our skeletons that we've had for several years, but I wanted them to be reapers, and I've gone down this whole reaper road, and I'm developing a little character sideline here. Highgate Cemetery, I don't know if anybody's familiar with it, is just, to me, one of the most amazing cemeteries in the world. It's in England, it's fantastic. Just the architecture, there's just tons and rows of crypts, and that was the inspiration for what we created for Main Gate.
That's pretty impressive. So you took all of this and then you met with a concept artist. And how many different revisions did it go through before we get to where we are today?
So the top right drawing, the pencil drawing, was me talking to one of the artists that worked in my shop, and she sat and she sketched, and then I was like, okay, let's change this, let's change that. And then it came about that we wanted to turn this into a lantern trigger as well. So there's a trigger up there. A lot of people didn't know that it was there. It was kind of a hidden gem.
You'll see him in a second. So this is the final concept rendering.
That was the final concept.
And then from the concept rendering, we had to go into production.
Yes, production. It was a lot, and I was like, I don't know how we're going to do this. I need more money, help, entertainment.
Entertainment and park decor work hand in hand most
We
of
do.
the season.
We work there.
When do you start typically creating these pieces? Because we talked about how you don't get to take the park over until after Labor Day. When does something like this start to take shape?
Well, this was built off-site by another company. This was actually produced in July. So.
All right, so somebody's building coffins in the summer month. That sounds about right.
Yeah.
That tracks.
Yeah. Well, John does toy shows, and I call him and say, hey, I need this cemetery thing. And he's like, oh, great, something new and different. I'm in, so it's kind of fun.
All right, and then we're going to see the final piece in a second. So if you come to Scary Farm, this is one of our most photographed pieces. And there, like you said, some of the lantern activations are hidden in here. How long did this take to set up?
We set this up in approximately 2.5 nights.
2.5 nights, ladies and gentlemen, for our main stage event. That's how quick his team works.
So, and then part of last year too, as well, the 50th medallion. I loved the 50th medallion, and I was trying to figure out, all right, how do I signify Not Scary Farm very quickly with something kind of cool and iconic. And I worked really hard trying to figure out a monogram of some sort, and then that is the new monogram, actually in the same frame that had the 50th logo in it, and that is kind of becoming a thing.
It is a thing. It's definitely a thing.
You will definitely see.
You will definitely see more of that moniker
Yeah.
happening at Not Scary Farm.
Uglies. For those of you that don't know, we are your queens of darkness, the Boulet brothers, and we are so thrilled to be here tonight with Not Scary Farm.
When I tell you this, I mean it. Not Scary Farm is our favorite haunt above all others. So, very important, I need you to mark your calendars right now, because in 3 days' time, on Tuesday the 19th, we will be co-hosting Not Scary Farm's Nightmares Reveal. And this is a magical night where we learn all of the gory details about this season's Halloween at Not Scary Farm.
Now, I have a little bit of bad news for you. Unfortunately, Nightmares Revealed is already sold out. However, Knott has been generous enough to offer us some tickets to offer out to you exclusively for those in attendance tonight in the auditorium. So, yes, give it up for Knott, everybody. So if you want a ticket, you're going to scan the QR code that was supposed to be behind me, but isn't, but will be soon. And you'll be able to get a ticket and join us for Nightmares Reveal.
Now, the day is almost done, but not quite. So Drac and I are going to head over to the Not Scary Farm booth on the main floor. We would love to see you there. If you'd like to meet with us, have a photo, we would love that. But if we don't see you there, we'll see you at Not Scary Farm in the fall.